Golf Central on YouTube, brought to you by TaylorMade.
Augusta National Golf Club has been golf's global renewal every spring for the better part of 8 decades. This year, we'll ring in the holiday season with the final round scheduled for November 15th. Earlier today, Fred Ridley, the chairman of Augusta National, issued this statement, which reads, in part, since our initial announcement to postpone the 2020 Masters, we have remained committed to a rescheduled tournament in November while continually examining how best to host a global sporting event amid this pandemic. Even in the current circumstances, staging the Masters without patrons is deeply disappointing. The guests who come to Augusta each spring from around the world are a key component to making the tournament so special. Augusta National has the responsibility, however, to understand and accept the challenges associated with this virus and take the necessary precautions to conduct all aspects of the tournament in a safe manner. We look forward to the day when we can welcome all of our patrons back, hopefully in April 2021. And with that, I say good evening. I'm Gary Williams in Orlando, joined by George Savarikas, who is at the Wyndham Championship. He is in Greensboro, North Carolina. George, good evening to you. The reaction to any news associated with the Masters tournament usually comes very swiftly. You're there at Sedgefield for the Wyndham Championship. What was the reaction today from players in the field?
Gary, it's certainly a strange backdrop for this year's Masters, the fall foliage at Augusta National. Like you mentioned, no patrons will be on hand. And for the players, they were either anticipating it, but then trying to wrap their heads around what it'll be like with no patrons. They just got their first taste a week ago of a major without fans at the PGA Championship at Harding Park. But now you have to envision a silent amen corner, a quiet par 3 16th, green jacket ceremony without any applause. So I spoke with a number of players as well as several past champions of the Masters to get their reaction to the news from Augusta National.
It's hard to imagine allowing spectators before there's a vaccine, I think, and especially to try and pioneer saying that they kind of got to make a decision, right? So it's kind of a shame every event, and then the major championships obviously even more so because of how grand the crowds are, the roars, Augusta specifically, the roars that you hear echoing and the influence that the patrons seem to have in the energy of the tournament, and certainly on the weekend.
It wasn't a shocker. I kind of expected that, especially with any kind of virus or flu or cold-like symptoms, stuff like that. It seems to always come out when it gets cold, and kind of November, December, that time of year, you would expect kind of a spike. So, we knew that they were going to err on the side of caution. So, I wasn't really as shocked that they went ahead and said no fans, but it's just kind of one of those things. We're just happy to be able to play and happy to be able to have the Masters this year.
One of my favorite things about Augusta is getting there before the fans all arrive. That's why I always try to make a trip before tournament week, is because it's Augusta National. And I love going down Magnolia Lane. I love getting to the clubhouse. And I love standing on the back veranda or balcony and just looking out over the property and just kind of taking it all in. But that's all well and good before championship week. Obviously, I love the color that the crowd provide. Everyone's dressed brightly, and everyone's in such a good mood that week. And definitely the roar of the back nine on Sunday at Augusta is something we've all become to know and love. And it's definitely going to be a strange atmosphere this year. I think also the golf course will probably look very different in terms of not having the spring colors, and so it'll definitely be a bit more subdued. But maybe it'll be a little bit cooler. So maybe that jacket will feel good on Sunday evening for somebody.
Couldn't imagine going to Augusta and not having the bleachers behind 15 to the right of 15 green, to the left, behind all the way up 16, behind 17 green on the left. All those things that were, all those people are there watching, they're not going to be there. So like, what's it going to look like? How's it going to feel? It's Augusta, so we're going to be fine. Guys are going to be up for it, and we're going to have a great time. But we're going to lose that little bit of electricity, and fans, I don't care what you say, fans will make this sport special.
I've been fortunate to play there without people there, go when there's no tournament there, and to see the golf course at its most pristine, and with absolutely no one there. It's really silent and really peaceful. But to not have the cheers on Sunday afternoon and know where them cheers come from and have them echoing around the golf course is going to be a very different scenario. The par 3 with the family, on Wednesday, all these things that people are obviously thinking about and, disappointed that aren't going to get the same vibes from. We've still got to realise that we're still going to get to play, one of the best tournaments of the year, at a fantastic golf course, still for a major championship and still get to play for a green jacket.
It's all about the times we're in and obviously the uncertainty that it can provide. So, I mean, you got to do what's smart, certainly for the betterment of people and humanity in that regard. But it stinks. I mean, full transparency, it stinks. I mean, you love having fans any given week, but especially at Augusta, especially at the Masters. So now I'm excited to go. I mean, I'm going to go regardless of when the event is. It doesn't matter what month it is. But there's something to be said about the last 9 holes with the fans and the drama that ensues.
That's a week where there's roars all day long from front 9, back 9, especially Amen Corner. And I've only had a chance to win there one time last year, and being in those last couple of groups on Sunday on the back 9 was just an amazing experience. And so you're not, being around Augusta and it being very quiet is going to be a little bit eerie, I think. And especially Sunday on that back 9 when you make a 20-footer, 25-footer for eagle on 13 or 15 and no claps. It'll be different, but still going to be great to watch on TV for the viewers.
3 months from today, on November 12th, it's going to be odd to see Tiger Woods on the first tee looking to defend the green jacket with nobody lining that first fairway. But the players I chatted with, they said even though there were no fans last week at the PGA Championship, still had the elevated feel of a major compared to other weeks. And Gary, the atmosphere of Augusta National is going to draw guys in the moment they take that drive down Magnolia Lane.
George, there's no question about that. Jim Gallagher joins me now. Of course, having played in the Masters tournament on a number of occasions, just your first reaction, just the thought of the amount of silence that week, Masters week.
It is going to be eerie, but I remember a lot of my practice rounds were early. When it's quiet and you take it all in. You're kind of like in heaven. It's that first walk up and you get out there and you just see this beautiful masterpiece that's out there that God's created, and you're going like, man, this is heaven on earth. I think that's the things you're going to see. I think it's the background with people. The patrons aren't going to be there, and they mentioned that, the bleachers. It's going to be a completely different look. I mean, you'll have the trees in the different colors, but it's the roars. It's that atmosphere. The patrons are just, they make it different. It's the Masters. Their just golf knowledge is there, and people come years after years after years. The golf course itself, I mean, the weather can change a lot. We'll get a lot of different fronts. We see that when we played at East Lake for the Tour Championship in November. We'll see those things happening. Maybe it's a little softer, but it's still going to be the Masters. But it is, maybe for the first-timers, an advantage because they won't have to deal with a lot of those things, the roars and those things. But when you get down the back 9, it's still the Masters.
You're exactly right. But back to that point that you just made about the less experienced players, if you consider all of the things that transpired just this past weekend at a place a lot of people unfamiliar with at TPC Harding Park, if you put all the machinations that might transpire on a Sunday at the Masters tournament, and again, you have the human effect. We don't have electronic scoreboards.
Right.
This is like being in a time capsule when you go there. To consider that second 9 and the things that may transpire and players trying to understand what is going on in front of them and behind them is going to be fascinating.
What's going to be different? We always talked about there for a while there weren't the roars, the way the course was set up. There wasn't the excitement, but it's going to be there anyway. But with the patrons not there, it's not there. So you as a player trying to make a move, when someone's done something special, there's nowhere in the world that sound but Augusta National. You hear that sound going through the pines. It's just an amazing place. And like I said, when I first stepped on there, and I didn't go early, and I don't know why I never went early, because, man, it's just a beautiful place. It's like heaven on earth.
Well, you were a participant. When you walk over the Hogan Bridge, that's one of the most precious parcels of land anywhere in the world, and there's a lot of silence there.
Yeah.
Most of the golf course will be that way. It is still going to be haunting, and it will be special. Jaime Diaz joins me now. And Jaime, there are so many things about the Masters tournament that are distinctive and synonymous almost exclusively to that one tournament. What do you think will be most different in 2020 with this latest announcement?
Well, the immediate look of the environment, certainly the azaleas and the dogwoods not blooming, and then the throngs behind the 12th tee and the 18th green. And that speaks to the patrons and the atmosphere that they create. There's been a lot of examples of certainly the buzz that comes from the patrons. I think the best one might have been 1986. Jack Nicklaus is making his charge, but he's still behind on the 9th green in the final round. He's looking at a birdie putt and suddenly hears this noise from the huge roar, actually, from the 8th green, and it's Tom Kite who's holed a 70-yard wedge shot. He starts to look at the putt again. He hears another roar within a minute. It's Seve Ballesteros, the same hole. He's holed a 50-yard wedge shot for eagle. Suddenly, the patrons are buzzing also, and he tells them, his group, listen, let's make a roar of our own. He makes the putt. He's off. He shoots 30. He wins the 1986 Masters. Honestly, those are great moments, and they're not going to be replicated this year simply because the patrons won't be there. However, I do think that the major challenge of every player is to just get inside their own head and take every shot one shot at a time without the external stimuli affecting them very much. And honestly, I think that in a way it's a net positive for the Masters just simply to hold this tournament. Obviously, it's not a perfect situation, but it's an inspirational moment because here we are in a pandemic. The Masters is taking, I think, a very responsible leadership role, saying, look, let's not take a risk. And it's sending a great message, I think, to the world. It's also reflecting very well on golf.
I mean, what impact do you think no patrons will have on this year's defending champion, who also happens to be a 5-time champion in Tiger Woods?
Well, Tiger often gains from his great play in terms of how it affects galleries, whatever, in terms of how much they suddenly feel the tension from him playing great. On the other hand, I honestly think Tiger himself would prefer to play almost without a gallery because his state that he tries to reach every shot is just no external stimuli, living inside his own head, being in that cocoon of concentration and making every shot so vitally important that he's the greatest mental player ever. So I don't think it's going to be an issue for Tiger. I think actually will help him overall. So again, a net victory here for the Masters.